Welcome back, everybody. Here we have the first of a painting series for the Dreadfleet box set, and we're going to look at the Heldenhammer, which is the main ship for the good side. And this is what it looks like when I'm all done. And here's all the paints I used. So I'm not going to show these on the individual slides, but in general, the red bits. Excuse me for a second here. The red bits are going to be a mix of that for the base, some bell red, and then blood red and vomit brown highlight. The C area was these blues here, plus some Badab black and a little bit of Thrack green, which I didn't show here. Gray areas are going to be Codex, Fortress, and Skull. The areas on the flags are going to be these Deneb Stone, Bleached Bone, and I use a bit of Scorched Brown for the writing. Golds, I didn't use GW golds, I used these Reaper ones. However, tin bits, Shining Gold, and Bronze Gold would do just as well. And so for the roof areas was Fenris Gray. Some of the wood bits were Kemery Brown. But in general, and the sails had an Ogren Flesh wash. So I started out with a dark brown spray. So it's a flat brown spray. A black spray would do well as an alternative. Yeah, it's basically a scorched brown kind of a color, and that's to start out. So I had partially assembled this. So this is all in one piece. It's not attached to this base, and then the sails were one piece as well. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the wood decking here Kemery Brown, and I did the same with these as well. So that's just all the masts and a bit of Kemery Brown. That's a Devil in Mud wash just to bring it out. Oh, actually, sorry. Before I did the Devil in Mud, I did a Bleached Bone dry brush. That was the previous step, and that's the Bleached Bone dry brush. And yeah, okay, so now we've got Regal Blue here for the base. That's just a thick coat of Regal Blue. And here's my mix of Mechrite Red and Blood Red, and just covering up all the red areas, just a nice base coat. And mixing the Mechrite and the Blood Red helps get some coverage over top of that dark brown. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm dry brushing on those lighter blues. And so just trying to focus on the higher areas, just basic dry brushing, nothing special there. And then with the ice blue as well along the just along those edges. And now what I've done here is I've given it a wash of Badab black and Thraka green and watered that down, and that helps give it a bit of a aqua sort of a color. Okay, Bal red here on all of the red areas. So that's just a wash to help smooth out the color as well as accentuate some of the shadows. Fenris gray on all of these areas. So as you can see, I'm kind of adding the different base colors kind of together. And the idea there is that you do a base color. If you mess up a little bit, when you do the next base color, you can fix it. So you can see a little bit of the Fenris gray there over areas that are going to be gold. So here we have Codex gray, and again, anything that overlaps, I'm going to fix that the next color I do. Okay, so back to the base. This is just the last step here. So I just add a little bit of skull white to the little caps of the waves, and that's after that wash has dried, and that's that base done. And okay, so for all the Codex gray areas, that's Badab black wash there, and it goes on these areas as well, the rooftops. And now I'm doing the base coat on the sails. So they had the same sort of rooftops there. The Codex gray I didn't do at the same time, but I will do that. And these are just a 50-50 mix of Mechrite red and Blood Red. Trying to put it on in thin layers to get a nice even coat. I'm basically following the White Dwarf painting scheme, and they suggested spraying it. I didn't. I just painted it on. Okay, a second coat of Badab black on here, and touching up all of the gray areas with Codex gray. So just smoothing out where the Badab black wash would have left patchy spots. Okay, and that's the banners there just evening out the colors. Okay, so now what I'm doing here is I'm going to be starting to edge highlight the gray areas, and that's just with that Fortress Gray. And there's just a dry fit to see how things are going to go together. Okay, so there you can really see the Fortress Gray, and this is that scorched metal. So it's kind of like a tin bits. GW paint scheme suggests the gold mixed with scorched brown, but I find that this is just as easy. And you can see there's lots of detail here. Because it's all nice and raised, it actually paints up fairly nicely. If you were reasonably careful with the red, you won't have to do too much touching up there. And just to mention, I did put Bada Black wash on the inside of these cannon areas just to help bring that down a little bit. Okay, so what I've done here, that's a bit of the vomit brown lines there. And I've highlighted this as well with a bit of blood red, just trying to fade it in just to accentuate some of the shape here. And again, sorry about the focus there, but you can see I'm going to ease that out a bit, just covering up with a bit of blood red, but just trying to show the shape there. Okay, and then this here, just a little bit of skull white edge highlighting, and I did a little bit of dry brush on this here after those washes were done. And working my way through this gold now. You can see some of the different details. This stuff's pretty tiny. So this is the golds from Reaper. So this is just the main gold on most of the areas, and this is going to get a Devlin Mud wash. So working my way through. So this has been done. I'm just trying to add some gold onto these areas, and you can see in there it's got some of the gold as well. There's the gold base coat all done. That's probably decent for the most part. The extra steps I take don't add a lot beyond this, but I think it adds a bit. So here what I did is I used vomit brown for that, which is like a yellow. And then when I realized it was so close to the Idean Dark Sun, I decided to redo kind of get rid of some of the variation there with the foundations. So foundations go on there really nicely, and I used the Deneb stone for the scroll work here. There you can see. Now this one here I glued in place just because there's a bit, the way that it attaches there, I wanted that to match up as best as I could. And I didn't think it would happen after. Chaos Black, just for these banners, and I actually don't end up highlighting them at all. Okay, so now I'm putting the final bits of gold. So again, it's really subtle. GW likes to use mithril silver to highlight their gold edges, but I'm just using a bit of the lightest Reaper gold. Okay, so now this is the area. This is what I've redone this with the foundation. So that's Deneb stone, Idean Dark Sun, and there's a couple little areas I'm going to have to touch up. But because these are raised, kind of like an embossed look, it makes it a lot easier. So painting the banners, while it does take some time, isn't terrible. What I'm doing here is after I did those, I washed that with a Griffin Sepia, and you can see the different sort of tones and shine here. That's the blood red. I've gone over everything, just a really thin down layer of blood red, and come right up to the edges. And what that's doing is it's going to make those edges darker, or keep them darker, and highlight the rest of it. So that shine I'll get rid of that once I spray this with a anti-shine finish. So now what I'm doing here is I'm touching up the colors after the wash, and working my highlights around the outside here. So this is now with a vomit brown. I'm just trying to do a kind of an edge halo sort of a look. And I added a bit of scorched brown here to give it a bit of a non-metallic. Don't really love that, but that's okay. Then what I did is I used bleached bone to kind of highlight this area, mostly focusing on the edges. And this is a freehand with a really fine brush using scorched brown. So I try to water it down just the right consistency, and trying to write some of the things on there that GW did. So I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I mean, it's not perfect, but This was a first go. I didn't really touch it up at all. So yeah, adds a little bit of character to it, but definitely, tabletop, that's going to be great. Adds a little bit extra, but for anything competition-wise, you probably want to spend more time. Okay, so that's basically all there is to it. There's a little bit more detail on this ship here. I just did Vomit Brown and Bleach Bone and Devlin Mud Wash, just so that it looked like it fit, sort of. And let's walk around here. So all in all, it's a great model to paint. Nice change from painting figures, but because there's so much detail, it does take a while. Like this took me about the same amount of time as it takes to do a unit of guys at tabletop level. And I've got 9 more of these ships plus all the scenery to do for this kit. But I'm really looking forward to it because they're such great models. And from what I've read from the gameplay, it sounds like it's going to be great. So hopefully I'll be able to get a game in with Matt over at Mini Wargaming, and we'll be able to do a battle report for you. But in the meantime, there'll be some tutorials here. Oh yeah, so I went over these lines here with Bleach Bone. What else is there? That's about it. Yeah, really happy with how it turned out, and I can't wait to give this a shot. Hope you enjoyed that, and check my channel over at Mini Wargaming or my blog. It's likeawatchingpainttry.blogspot.com for more content and previews of what's coming next. See you next time.